and then i-justify ang iyang advantage. Second is ang scope and limitation. Kung mo-consider ba daw og soil structure interaction, and for that matter, ang soil scouring effect for the probability indices of the seismic fragility curve. And then, nag-mention siya, asa daw mag-focus on the SFC or seismic fragility curve of the bridge. Should be the soil pile or the soil abutment interaction or ang both sa ilaha. And fourth is ang scope and limitation. Kung sa failure mode na mo tanaw, what kind of mode are we looking at for the structure? Is it related to shear, flexure, or torsion, or unseating of the girder, for example? And then number 5, why are you using nonlinear static analysis and not nonlinear dynamic analysis? Okay? And then for Sergamones, correction of the terminology, use the term seismic fragility only, do not use the word curve na. Review of related literature, go back to the introduction and discuss the detail on fragility curve for bridges. No? Muna yung gusto, review of related lit on fragility curve application for bridges. And correction daw, there's no statement of the problem. Correction also, second paragraph na line, please check that sentence and correct. Also, the objective, pa-revise, soil structure interaction is determined prior to generation of the fragility curve, and dili baliktad, no? Una ang interaction and then after the generation of the curves. Then number 6, seismic waves. Please confirm, seismic waves are not used for the determination of structural capacity of bridges or buildings. So please look into this matter. And then number 7, seismic events is very broad daw. Please limit your terminology to PGAs or SAs. That's better terminology compared sa word nga seismic events. And then number 8, please discuss the relevance of the bridge to the community, the Cagayannons, and why this study is important. And then please elaborate on the limitation of ground motion data. So this is related to scope and limitation. So as a group, please review on this. And then also correction on the complicated framework on the input, process, and output of the methodology, I think, or the framework of the study. So please correct this one and make it simplified now. In particular, in the SSI analysis, perhaps explore one approach only, and then reserve other approach to the limitation para to save time and to be more focused on the study. 11 is related to review of related lit and some methodology. So look into this. 11 and 12 in particular, please define clearly unsa ang mga terminologies in relation to interaction diagram, moment capacity, pushover, capacity spectrum, and so forth. Okay, so nag-highlight siya, good job for using MATLAB in the approach of the methodology. But nag-mention sad siya, SAP 2000 has various ways of modeling bridges. So please indicate unsa ang procedure nga gamiton for SAP. And again, sa last item niya, present can generate PGAs in different excitation levels. I hope researchers will utilize this feature and produce ground motion data. Okay. Noted ba na, bridge group?
Yes, ma'am, noted.
Okay, sige. So for the JR Borja Hospital, motivation of the research should be highlighted. Scope and methodology, I think this is similar to the last group. Please highlight the recommendation is to try explore the following methodology: displacement coefficient, equivalent linearization method, or displacement modification method. I think because nakita man gud niya nga across the 3 studies na amoy similarity, and yet wala daw mo nag-highlight sa uniqueness of your research. So maybe part of that is to explore unsang inyuhang method nga gamiton as a group. Number 3, you have indicated research standards is FEMA 440, but Nag-mention sad siya, clarify this and decide if you will be using FEMA or ATC40 to avoid confusion and inaccuracy of the methodology later. Okay, then ingon din siya, FRACA software focus on maximum inter-story drift. But ingon siya, low-rise buildings such as J.R. Borja, General Hospital, has to be looked at kung mao gini siyang application nga gamiton and compare. Okay. Again, nag-mention siya sub 2000 will be used and considered for plastic hinges. And number 5, if you still have time, it will be used. It will be good to consider. I do not know the terminology, but aleatoric property of the material. So please explore this now. A recommendation na niya. If not, then you can have it as scope and limitation of the study. From Sir Gamones, again, ang motivation sa research because nag-emphasize man ni sa J.R. Borja Hospital. So, normally daw, number of stories, but this is maybe just 2 story or 1 story. I think 2 story, no? So, please look into this matter. It will be nice to set the location of J.R. Borja Hospital sa map pod kay para makita. I think research setting related. Please remove a line for correction. Please include generating ground motion as inputs for the objective. So noted, this is very important. No, gi-red pod na ako. Sa motivation, maybe just revise. Why is it important to study hospital for the community of Cagayan? And then correction sa ka-phrase, sa ka-item. Okay, and then chapter 1.6, change the po ko no ibalhin. So these corrections, the pair of these corrections are just really related to paper writing. Okay, then review related literature, focus on modeling, ground motion inputs, and generation interpretation of seismic fragility curve. And then correction on 3.1, something is wrong with the flow chart. Okay, so please check on that. And 3.4.2, please indicate the type of nonlinear hinge and its location on the structural model. For chapter 3, please elaborate on the use of ground data from University College London. I think because this is this methodology is adopted from the previous study, no? And palihog daw check on response spectra, PGAs, and different excitation levels. Na siya particular concern, how does FRACAS evaluate ground motion inputs? Please indicate sa inyong methodology and give the details of corresponding generation of structural capacity curve, capacity spectrum method, and generation of fragility curve. And please provide definitions of damage assessment. And last item, please indicate your output. Kaya wala daw naka-indicate kung saan expected output sa research. Noted? Hospital group, J.R. Borja Hospital.
Yes, ma'am. Noted, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, the last group for St. Augustine. Again, kang Engineer Kupay, he asked why you are using FRACAS for failure mode of an inter-story drift. So justify this one and maybe correct if there are items to be corrected in the introduction, in the pursuant of relevance and motivation of the research, and then the methodology. Okay, na siya gi-mention that there are certain number of floors above the church ground floor. So kindly look into this matter, no? Na siya gi-recommend nga item. Okay, methodology. There are 3 teams doing, okay, mo niyang gi-mention yun nga, pare-pareha mo. So unsa daw ang unique sa inyo ha? It's not fairly, dili lang yun ang building, no? But approach sa research. So, gi-highlight niya. And therefore, sa number 3, please explore again the different methods, displacement coefficient, ELM, or the displacement modification method. Okay, correction again for using ATC and FEMA and SAP 2000 default standard, which is FEMA 356. And then again, aleatoric property of the cathedral, since it's very old, please look into this matter. And then final note, please avoid adopting word for word. Again, Sa grouping siguro ni kay you are a team man no sa structural, but ingon siya, please avoid adapting or word for word, meaning verbatim copying of the steps provided in the study. Please be different and essentially be focused on your own study. Again, ingon siya nga as a team you work together, but please make sure na you give allowance for your uniqueness in writing your paper at the same time your methodology. Okay, kang Sir Gamones, ingon siya, motivation of the research, considering it's a church or a cathedral, and then no statement of the problem. So please include that one in the introduction of your study. Objective must be revised. It does not lead to the generation of a fragility curve. So please correct that one. It's very critical, no, to be questioned on your objectives. For motivation, please discuss how relevant cathedral church is to the Cagayanons or the community. For scope and limitation, please do not show this as a limitation. Use this in chapter 4 instead. Okay, this is related to ground motion data being selected. And then theoretical framework as well has to be corrected in chapter 1.6 or section 1, 1.6. In terms of review of literature, chapter 2, nag-comment siya, good job for citing fragility studies and the Philippine churches, but please also provide modeling or structural modeling, ground motion inputs, and generation interpretation of seismic fragility curve. Please insert structural model in the flow chart, in the flow chart in chapter 3.1 na section. If possible, indicate the type of nonlinear hinge and its location in the structural model. And please elaborate procedure for selecting ground motion inputs. All in chapter 3, please provide details of the procedure of the pushover analysis, capacity curve, capacity spectrum method, and generation of fragility curve. And then please provide procedure for damage assessment, kaya wala daw nakita niya sa chapter 3. And the definition of each damage assessments. And also again sa chapter 3, but last item, good job for showing steps in the generation of fragility curve using fracas. But please, highlight na sad, correction, please indicate the expected output of the research as this is required in every proposal. Noted, group 3.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So as highlighted Mr. Dexter, because this is collated comment, and we'll still have to wait kung napay ikadugang si Sir Art o si Ma'am Julie. Unfortunately, our chairman is not here, kay she's not feeling well. But rest assured, all the comments will be monitored and with respect to the comment of Sir Kopay Mihano and Sir Gamones. Sir Dexter will validate your answers or your correction. Okay? Sige. Sir Nolan, napa si Sir Nolan? Sir, na kay concern Sir Nolan? Sir, na kay question? Sir, di na ko madunggan, sir. Di na mo madunggan.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Oh, may hapon, sir.
Actually, mo mula kay ko nakadungog sa ilang diskusyon kay hinay kayo.
Okay, sir.
Then, I have a people here. Nagsubmit, naghatag sila sa ako.
Oo.
Hindi lang, ang akong kuha na question is about the conduct about the baseline data.
Okay.
So what are those data nga ilang conduct?
Okay. Sige.
Ang ilang kuha ni is about how to prevent kung naay seismic nga may tabo.
Oo.
Unsa nga maka-reaction nga dili mo unsa ang bridge. So the gather data, what is this data? This is my question number 1. And number 2, create a digital structure and soil models.
Okay, sige, sir.
I think they use to prove na kung gini sa structure, I think they use software. And what are those software? About the structural and the soil.
Mm.
May mga software ani nga kuha na to nga ang bridge is okay sa seismic dili sa maunsa, di ba? So I think ilan ning question kung unsa ang gigamit na software, then what is the kining ang stability sa structural ba? Structural like sa foundation, sa iyang beams, sa yung mga connections, I think nailani. So we must discuss about this one. Then about the soil model. Ay kini mo kung structural is kini mo kung foundation is nagkuhan sa soil. So giyon sa nila pag-determine nga ang soil is stable ani nga bridge. Okay ba, ma'am?
Okay, kuha na ko, sir.
Nabati ko, ma'am. Okay, number 3, ma'am, is to determine structural capacity. I think we have also gathered a calculation whatsoever na ma-prove nila nga ang structure is okay siya when the times seismic occur in our place, di ba? So that's all, ma'am. Mura lang kung question, ma'am.
Okay, thank you kayo, sir. I guess dili lang ko sa bridge na study, no? Sir Nolan, pwede na to i-off from studio.
Okay, ma'am.
Salamat kay sir. Okay, so I think it would speak for the rest of the group, no? But this is highlighted for the bridge structure in particular kay siya man ang gi-invite ni si Sir Martinez or Sir Nolan Martinez, no? So number 1, let's be clear on what are we referring of as the data. In particular, kung magstorya tag baseline, gusto niya makita o mahibawan ang itemized discussion on what are the data. Second, in terms of the data in particular, gusto sa niya mahibawan ni sir unsa ang reference ninyo nga seismic value or history or reference value, no, for the structural analysis later on kung sa tong gistoryahan nga seismic, no, reference or history. Third is related to what software are we using. So kaganina we made mention that we'll use Fracas, etc. But it would be better if maklaro how this software will be used in terms of its functionality and the analysis later on. Okay? In particular, kung kani ba nga mga software makapakita ba digital model, framework of the structure, or even the underlying foundation, soil structure. Okay, number 3 is please confirm if this the stability analysis of the structure will be able to include parts, for example, the foundation, the beams, the overall links. So kana gusto niya mahibaw-an pod. So please be let's elaborate our discussion on that matter. Kaya ang mabasa sa atong paper, dili lang man engineers, no? Napoy mga lay persons who will be interested to know the details of that. So let's not limit our explanation and discussion. Ang fourth dayon is ang soil model. How will this be determined? I'm sorry, mura na ako na-catch, no? But I'm hoping matubag ni sa group in terms of the paper. And then number 5 is the structural capacity or the capacity of the structure to seismic impacts. I think that's the 5 items nga gi-mention ni sir. And hopefully matubag sa group. Anyone who would like to comment on this question? It will be very relevant sa tanang grupo, no? Sige, Chub, ikaw start.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for the questions. First of all, for the first question po, the data that we'll be using, we were able to specify it in our research design. We will be gathering our earthquake model, our ground motion data, then the specifics of the bridge deck, bridge coping, abutment. And currently, we don't have access to that yet because we still don't have the blueprint of the plans. And yeah, for the second concern po, I mean, the seismic history value, we still have not chosen which ground motion data or which earthquake which seismic values are we going to consider. We still have to search for the places that are most similar to Cagayan de Oro City, but as of the moment we are considering Surigao and Ozame City for ground motion data. So I guess that's all for now, I guess, sir. But we are going to finalize our seismic history values. Then software and function are the softwares. Currently, we have also been able to specify in our paper that we'll be using Prism, SAP 2000, OpenSeas, and MATLAB and Excel. However, we still do not have the clear grasp of how we are going to use these softwares, but we are clearly aware of their functionalities, that we are going to use Prism software for column interaction diagram and SAP 2000 for the bridge modeling and OpenSeas for soil modeling. Then for the fourth question, how do we determine our soil model? Yes, we also currently do not have an answer for that question because, again, we still do not understand how to conduct soil structure analysis, soil structure interaction analysis, and we are hoping to be able to find some guidance for this for more information. So currently we are canvassing more information on how we are going to do SSI, because we really believe that we need to consider SSI in our study of seismic fragility of the bridge, because not only is it a localized approach of this study, but it's also unconventional and unexplored. So we would like to do soil structure interaction analysis as well. So currently, those are our answers po. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Ma'am
kaayo,
Mel,
Chub.
comment
Sige,
lang ko
Art,
sa
napag
answer, Ma'am Mel,
Thank you
ha?
kay Chub, ha? Thank you kay
Yeah.
Chub. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sige, Art, usa to? Sir Art?
Comment lang siya. Na-mention nga they are finding a place nga similar o seismic ba to imong gingon?
Yeah, seismic reference
No?
point for values.
Kuan siya, mas it's not just about the place, no, it's more about the seismic source. So for example, dali sa Cagayan, atong known na nga seismic source pinakadol is the Tagulwan Fault, di ba? So ang imong kuanon, imuha yung tan-awon is unsa ang potential ana nga seismic source nga kaya niya i-release nga seismic forces. So inana siya. Okay. So kung mangita ka og other faults siguro. Dahil nun sayang effects sa nearby nga cities. So muna siya ginana dayon. Okay?
Okay,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
kay Sir Art.
Kada lang, ma'am.
For the entire group who are doing structural analysis, no, kay kasagara manggod kay seismic related, we can always go to our FIBOC office, local region 10 office of FIBOCs, and we can ask them for the seismic values or seismic reference point that would impact Cagayan de Oro structures. Much better siguro kay natay. Tama tong gingon po ni Sir Art, probably it's the Tagulwan River or maybe the nearest lugar. Or Sir Dexter can also highlight. Sige, Sir Dex.
Yes, I think in Ma'am regional nga FIVOX, they will still advise to write in Manila, no? But anyway, of course, they can try. But I suggest, no, since there are 3 groups here, we are working on basically establishing first what is the seismicity of the area. Doon ra man gyud na no kining Balula nga bridge, Iris Carmen unya diha dayon sa cathedral. They might want no, I don't know, kamo ka magbahala, devote siguro at least one per group to really study the seismicity of the area. Total ang output ana magamit man ninyong tulo. Ang lisod man gud ani kung lahi ang seismicity nga makuha or gamiton sa cathedral group compared sa bridge nga group, dako gid ang pangutana ngano lahi man ang seismicity ninyo sa Cagayan compared sa other group, no? So makuan, so I will suggest no nga kung tulo mo ka group, dako kayo nga tabang magamit ninyo ang seismicity lang nga part kay ang building lahi naman gid ang structure, pero sa seismicity nga part unsa nga earthquake, unsa nga kalayo katuno ingon ni Sir Ark etc. o katong gipang pangutana ni Sir Gamones and Sir Kupay, you might consider no nga devote at least one member to your group to have a kanang integrated study about the seismicity applicable to your site. Dili man kayo layo gud inyong mga site. Ana lang.
Thank you kay Sir Dex. For that matter as well, kay team man lagar mo no. Ang ako lang hangyo, ayaw na mo pag copy paste og discussion kay mo tong gi-highlight ni Sir Gamones no nga. We do have similar approach to the problem, but we have different structure to analyze. But please be careful when you write your discussion na dili siya copy-pasted ha, and then verbatim na word for word share po ninyo as a team. Kay clearly each group has their own work. You will have to be working as a team in terms of the needed data and analysis and support each other. But to the write up, unique sad, no? Unique kay wala ta nag-ingon bitaw ko na atay policy karon sa plagiarism.
Yeah, ako highlight na Mambel. Even when I said that i-integrate silang tulo, clearly because your structures are different, I would perceive no that bridges, for example, will be more critical to long period nga seismicity kay taas man siya, while katong mga building posible nga katong mas paspas to nga earthquake ang ilang mas critical. So maayo kung inyong database inyong tigumon pero clearly ang inyong results di magyud pareha. So correct mo lahi-lahi gyud ang write up.
Sir Art? Nakay kadugang Sir Art?
Okay naman, Bel.
Okay, thank you. And thank you also for the comment kang Sir Nolan, no, kay medyo na kuan na to, na clarify nga in the details of the discussion later, it should be noted. We have to discuss what is the data, what are the software, how is it used, and what are the outputs. And then in terms of our structural analysis, what are the soil models or the seismic values that are considering, etc. No? So kana dili gid ko expert sa structural analysis, but I'm hoping that through the group and the team's effort, you will help each other para ma-pursue ninyo ang topic. Kay clearly, your study is very relevant karon sa atong community. Particularly kay for the last 2 years na natay mga seismic events nga na-felt din sa atong local area sa Cagayan, no? So I would like to pursue more further discussion later, in particular katong hangin ni Sir Nolan and Sir Kupay and Sir Gamones, and then rest assured Sir Dexter will be there to help you out. Okay? Thank you. Salamat tanan. If wala na itlaing concern, we will close the FYPS proposal defense. I will give time for the panelists to review at the same time to check on your revision so that we'll have time to grade as well. Rest assured, ako na mag-follow up, Sir Dex, Sir Ark, sa grado nila, ha? Okay ra ba? Sir Dex, Sir Ark, sa
Okay, ma'am.
Sige ma'am, email lang.
Sir Nolan, mga identity grado sa imo, sir, kung makahatag ka.
Hello?
Sir Nolan, katong sa paper nila, na ay evaluation sheet.
Yes, ma'am. Nadawat na ako, ma'am. Ma'am, pwede ko magadugang gamay lang, ma'am?
Oh, sige sir, wala problema. Unsa man sir?
About, this is about the seismic, ma'am.
Sige.
Naamagay taga-asset din eh. I know din this Dexter Law, nakaila mo gito saya, na magkita sa ASIP, I think Dexter Law is paylo naman siguro niya si Sir. Kapon Sir, makita ko niya sa Manila.
Yes, Sir Nolan. Mayong hapon.
Mayong hapon, Sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Taka Sir, sa Manila Sir, you are one of the speaker those time. Kala time.
Sa unang panahon na to, Sir, retire na po gamay.
Kuya Sir Dexter, kay bata pa, pero maayo na kayo mo discuss sa mga about structural ba?
Sige, Sir Nolan, mag-duplicate Sir Dexter.
Nala ko idugang about
Sige,
sa
sir.
kanang research, about sa
Oo.
kanang research. Tanawalan, about sa seismic, tanawalan ninyo na mga guidelines sa structural code of the Philippines na anak. Insakto tong sulti ni Dexter, tingalig ang input nila, masayop sila. Tingali, okay lang og manumbra ang input, pero og shortage sa input, delikado. Imbis kay anso na to for na himong to or okay lang po sobrahan na, pero mas maayo itong certain yun siya. So, sa mga students, I would like to share na prepare mo sa structural code of the Philippines. Kaya mo na itong isunod karon about structural. Thank you. Salamat.
Okay, salamat kay Sir Nolan sa inyong comment, sir. Rest
Thank you
assured,
po,
Sir
sir.
Dexter will be there.
Yes.
Sir Dexter will be
Ato
there to
nang
guide.
pwede limtan ng NSCP. Salamat, Sir Nolan.
Mag-duplicate man sa si Sir Dexter o si Sir Art sa structural. So, that the students are in good hands, Sir Nolan. Mag-work lagi sila ayo, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
About sa structural, ma'am, si Dexter, senior siya na.
Okay, sige, salamat, sir. Okay na, sige. Salamat kay Sir Dex, Sir Art, Sir Nolan, and students. Salamat kayo sa inyong panahon nga gihatag karon sa inyong defense. I'm sorry, dili mi makahatag sa grado pa, kay there are items to be ironed out. But rest assured, we will handle that, and hopefully kamo po, you have taken notes sa comments so that mahimo ninyo dahil diretso and then makorek ninyo para magraduhan mo sa inyong teachers. Okay ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We'll have a meeting si Krisha akong ipaset sa schedule so para mahatod nato ang individual groups concerned and para mahatod tanan ang mga grado sa team, no? In particular sa structural and sa environmental group. So with that, I thank everyone for this afternoon and I hope na you'll have a pleasant and restful weekend so that we can continue with our community endeavor for Cagayan de Oro. Salamat kay tanan.
Salamat. Bye-bye.
Salamat kay Sir Nolan.
Thank
Dex,
you.
Dex, naday ko'y feedback, Dex, sa LGU. Pwede pa ta magstay?
Okay, ma'am.
Oo. Makisuyo ko, signed off ang tanan, except si Sir Dex and me. Kaya namin istoryahan nga meeting gamay. And thank you kaayo.
Kananglan, sir, magbilin ang host kay maputol man ni kumuaw.
Oo, ang host kay si Kuan Crisel. Chris?